Suzanne Morphew and her husband Barry. You know, this is one of those cases. Suzanne and her husband were married from being teenage sweethearts, really high school sweethearts. From what people say, I'm just saying what people say, Suzanne is an absolute sort of sweetheart herself, you know, very unassuming, quiet woman. And Barry is like, you know, thinks he's a hunter, like, you know, his hunting is his thing. One of the reasons he gave for some of the evidence that was presented when he was charged with Suzanne's murder before, because it was seen from his phone data that he was running around the house at some point, and it was thought that he was chasing Suzanne maybe around the house to try and do something to her. But he said no, he was hunting chipmunks. He was out there running around his house and the surrounding areas because he likes to shoot chipmunks, because chipmunks are a nuisance. You know, that sort of man Barry is. I mean, he is a hunter. I know a lot of people like hunting, especially in America. I'll never understand it in a million years, to murder animals just for the fun of it. Just think there's something wrong with you. It's different to hunt for food or for whatever reason, but hunting just for the fun because you just actually enjoy killing animals, to me that's a red flag. 100% a red flag. How could you enjoy killing an animal, you know, that can't self against you? How could you? You know, actually for fun. I say, you know, God. Anyway, so Suzanne, as many wives do, don't they, just disappeared one day. Disappeared completely. It was Mother's Day as well. It was Mother's Day. It was 5 years ago. It was Mother's Day. And they lived in up in near the Cascade Mountains, Colorado, that way in America, which to me, there always seems to be murders happening in Colorado, and it looks like a beautiful place. But oh my God, how many murders? You know, and that's, of course, was Ted Bundy's stomping ground. That is where let me get rid of that, actually. That is where his ashes are scattered around the Colorado mountains because, you know, most of his victims, you know, they're supposed to be loaded. How he was allowed to choose where his ashes go is beyond me. But anyway, this is more or less where it happened. So that's a picture of her with the fragrant Barry, not. I'd rather show the picture of her on her own. So this is Suzanne, and she was a keep fit fanatic, and it was thought, because she liked to go out cycling, it was thought that she'd gone out cycling that day, and in fact that's what Barry tried to say. Now they were estranged from each other. But Barry said, oh, no. They had a fantastic evening the day before she went missing. They were still seeing each other from time to time. And that was a mistake that Suzanne made, wasn't it? She kept going back to Barry. She couldn't seem to break away from him. He says that the night before she disappeared, they had a fabulous evening. They even made love. They had a lovely evening. It was all fantastic. Off he went to work the next morning and she disappeared. So he says, so that from the beginning, oh, she must have gone out cycling because she liked cycling and she liked to go out in the mountains and cycle. And lo and behold, when the police went out looking for her, they found her bicycle down a ravine. And it looked like she'd been abducted while she was out cycling. And this is what, of course, Barry said, oh yeah, that must be what had happened. I think then they also found her cycle helmet. So that's basically where the case rested for quite a long time. You know, she disappeared. I think the police were suspicious of Barry right from the beginning, but they had no proof that she was even deceased. You know, never mind that he'd killed her. They had a lot of circumstantial evidence. There's a lot of evidence that suggests he may have been chasing her around that house to shoot her with a tranquilizer dart. This again, all the proper evidence will come up at the court case that will be coming. I'm not going to go into all the circumstantial evidence because I think there'll be a lot more that they'll have now as well. Now, what changed everything was that while the police were out searching, not for Suzanne actually, but for another lady called Edna who had gone missing, they found human remains, and they thought they were Edna's remains, but they weren't. They were Suzanne Morphew's remains. So now they know that they knew she was dead, because there was a lot of talk that she might have run off, because it turned out she was having an affair. Oh, that's a whole nother story. So it turned out she was having an affair with someone who she used to go to school with, he had 5 children. He was married with 5 children. And he didn't come forward. Even when he heard that Suzanne was dead, he did not come forward. And he said for 2 reasons. One, because he didn't want Suzanne's name to be besmirched, by the fact she was having an affair, because they were having this secret affair for quite a long time. And 2, of course, he didn't want his wife, I think this is more likely the main reason, he didn't want his wife and his 5 children to know that he was having an extramarital affair. So he never came forward, and in the end, it took 6 months for the police to find him. And so they found out that Suzanne was having an affair, and they found this guy that Suzanne was having an affair with. So of course then for a while he was a suspect, because did he kill Suzanne because she was going to talk about reveal their affair, and he didn't want their affair to be revealed? Anyway, eventually the police realized his alibi. He was in a completely different place at the time. He couldn't possibly have murdered Suzanne. The autopsy that was done on the remains that were found said it was homicide. So it is a murder case, whatever. Suzanne's remains were found. It wasn't an accident. Her remains were found miles away from where the bike was found or the helmet was found. So the police are 100% certain it's murder. Now, Barry had been indicted for murder before, but it came to nothing. There wasn't enough evidence. And the other thing I think is important to say, which totally bewilders me, is that their 2 daughters, they have 2 daughters, Barry and Suzanne have 2 daughters. They're sticking by their dad. Now, whether they are now, I don't know, because, before obviously the remains of their mum were found. How do they feel now, I wonder? How do they feel now? Do they think now, oh, maybe it was their dad? Because before they didn't even know their mum was dead anyway. And now they know she is dead, and they know that the autopsy report says it was homicide. I wonder what the daughters think now. But in the first case, they were sticking by their dad. They were so happy when he was released from prison, blah, de blah, de blah, de blah, de blah. Denial is such a strong, when people don't want to believe that their loved one, be it their dad, be it their boyfriend, be it their son, be it their daughter, their girlfriend, whatever, if somebody really doesn't want to believe something, it's amazing how strong that denial can be. So I don't know, I'll say, how they feel about him now. Have they wised up a bit to him? I don't know. But anyway, of course, he's innocent till proven guilty anyway. I cannot wait till this trial. This will be a trial I definitely will be following closely when it happens. If it's, I don't know if it's going to be televised, but whether it's going to be televised or if we end up covering it like we've been covering the mushroom murder trial, just watching what happens every day, I will definitely be covering it, because I feel for Suzanne. Suzanne's only crime was not loving this narcissistic twonk of a husband of hers. She went off him. She didn't love him anymore. He treated her like shit, and finally she decided she wasn't going to put up with it anymore, and she had to pay with her life. You know, it's disgusting, allegedly. So we'll definitely be covering that. We'll definitely be covering that when it comes up. So I just want to show you the press conference. So imagine the police. They've been chasing this guy down for 5 years, you know, trying to get enough evidence about him. So, yeah, let's have a look. Just need to put some windows down, as always. Right, where is it? Press conference. So the police have given a press conference. Let's have a look at it. It's a lovely press conference, actually. I say lovely is maybe not the right word, is it? But I just think this woman that's speaking at this press conference is so heartfelt the way she's speaking. Feels like she really does care. It's not just a professional interest that she has in this case. It comes over so very genuine. And, you know, I hope that I feel for Barry's daughters, or Suzanne and Barry's daughters. I know it's hard to accept that your dad might be an absolute twonk, but, you know, to me, that's their decision. My concern is Suzanne, whose life was taken from her by someone, and we'll find out if it was Barry or not, I suppose. So let's watch the press conference.
I appreciate the members of the media that are here today. I scheduled this briefing to provide an update on the investigation that has been in the hearts and minds of the people of Chaffee County since Mother's Day of 2020. Suzanne Morphew was reported missing on Mother's Day 5 years ago. Law enforcement has never stopped working to obtain justice for this mother of two, this daughter, this sister, and this beloved member of the Chaffee County community. Through the tireless efforts of the Chaffee County Sheriff's Office, the Saguache County Sheriff's Office, the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, I can announce today that the 12th Judicial District Grand Jury returned an indictment.
So he's been indicted for the second time. So they have this funny, well, it's not a funny system as far as America's concerned, but we don't do it in Britain, we don't do it in Spain. You have to go to the grand jury, don't you, and prove that there's a case, and then the person has to be indicted if there's enough evidence. I think that's how it works. So this is the second time, I think, that Barry has been indicted, but the first one fell apart. But now, we didn't have a body then. Now we've got a body. So be interesting to see what happens this time.
The grand jury has indicted Barry Morphew on the single count of murder in the first degree. Law enforcement, the Chaffee County community, and Colorado as a whole has never stopped fighting for justice for Suzanne. Cold case homicides are tremendously difficult. They're difficult for the families of the victims and the communities who wait patiently for answers. While it may seem at times that the world forgets about these victims, I can assure you that my law enforcement partners and Colorado's law enforcement community do not forget. Every unsolved murder is a tragedy, and we must never give up on our efforts to find answers in these cases. My office will be prosecuting the indictment as Suzanne's remains were found in Saguache County, which is a county within my jurisdiction, the 12th Judicial District. I am extremely appreciative of Michael Doherty, who is the elected.
You know, so it's lovely that, wasn't it, what she said? Like, it doesn't matter. Oh, she's got a lovely necklace on. Listen, I want that necklace. That's like the look, that necklace, it's lovely, isn't it? Sorry, I just got totally distracted by her necklace. Yeah, what she's saying, like, we never give up. You know, we must never think that the police do give up. They do get sidetracked, you know, other cases come up, but I think, you know, at the end of the day, this case of Suzanne Morphew was always there. And, you know, Barry thought he'd got away with it. He's been living his best life for 5 years, supported by his daughters, who probably just don't want to believe that their dad could do that to their mum. And of course, if Barry gets indicted and found guilty, they've lost their dad as well, haven't they? So, yeah, you know, I do feel for the daughters, you know, up to a point, to be honest. I mean, at the end of the day, they're adults now. If they can't see the reality of what's going on, then that's their problem. You know, they need to worry about what happened to their mum. What happened to her? What did she go through? You know, was her husband chasing around the house with a bloody dart gun or whatever? What did she end up suffering? That would be my concern, not about the dad. But anyway, the daughters, they've got, you know, they've got their own decisions to make. But, you know, they're adults now to make those decisions themselves.
District Attorney in Boulder County. He has consistently committed material resources to small rural DA's offices like mine to assist in the sometimes Herculean efforts to bring justice for victims in rural areas of our state. His commitment to rural Colorado he's continued his commitment with this case. He's provided me with the assistance of a chief deputy in the Boulder County District Attorney's Office to assist me with the investigation and the prosecution. Colorado's community of prosecutors is committed to assisting wherever the need arises. In addition to Mr. Doherty's assistance, District Attorney John Walsh of the Denver District Attorney's Office has committed to providing me with appellate guidance during the case proceedings. So today I have with me Chaffee County Sheriff Andy Rorick. I stand united with Sheriff Rorick and Under Sheriff Alex Walker. I stand united in announcing this indictment. Through this process, I have seen firsthand how deeply Sheriff Rorick and Under Sheriff Alex Walker and the entire Sheriff's Department in Chaffee County cares about this case. I am proud and appreciative of our cross-jurisdictional partnership and their hard and excellent work. I also stand with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, who has never wavered in its commitment to this investigation, providing essential intelligence and investigative resources and expertise through the years. I also recognize and appreciate our continued partnership with the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. The Colorado Bureau of Investigation has done incredible work, and their CBI agents and analysts have worked very, very hard to advance the goal of finding answers in this investigation. Here representing the CBI is Agent in Charge Chris Adams with CBI's Pueblo office. I also stand with Saguache County Sheriff Dan Warwick, who is here with me as well. He and his office immediately answered the call to action when Suzanne's remains were found in the county he represents. Sheriff Warwick and his deputies are an essential part of this team.
I'm just going to have a look to see if Edna, you know, because as I say, this was somebody else they were looking for, Edna. When they found Suzanne, I'm just going to have a look and see if Edna has been found yet. I don't think she has personally, but...
Responding to the recovery of Suzanne's remains with the highest level of dignity and professionalism. I also want to continue to recognize what I have come to expect in my years as a prosecutor, and that is multi-jurisdictional and multi-state cooperation and partnership. I want to recognize the Arizona Department of Public Safety, who immediately responded to our team's request for assistance in locating and arresting Barry Morphew in the Phoenix area. Mr. Morphew will be held by Arizona authorities pending extradition proceedings in that state. And upon conclusion of those proceedings, Mr. Morphew will be transported to Alamosa County to stand trial on the indictment. This indictment has been unsealed upon the arrest of Mr. Morphew. I asked for this briefing to provide you with an update and provide information to the community. Me and my team recognize the importance of being laser focused on the prosecution and to speak with one voice. And so for that reason, all of the agencies that have been involved in getting us to this place, as well as the prosecutors that have been willing to assist me in this investigation and prosecution, they have all been instructed to send any media requests to my office. And so that's what I'd ask of you. In an effort to be transparent, I'd like to thank the the Office of the Judicial District in this district for making the indictment immediately available. And so you can get a copy of that indictment on the State Judicial's website. It is linked on a page labeled Cases of Interest, and it's under Alamosa. Barry Morphew is presumed innocent in this case and that presumption remains with him unless and until he is convicted at trial. And so once again, thank you for allowing me to provide an update to the community on this very important case.
Sorry, let's just listen. So I'm going to show you about Edna in a moment. She still hasn't been found, Edna Quintana. But if it wasn't for Edna going missing, would Suzanne Morphew have ever been found?
And I can take a couple of questions if you have them. Yes, sir.
What was Barry doing in the Phoenix area?
And thank you for the question. The question was, what was Barry doing in the Phoenix area? I appreciate the question, and that information is still being gathered. We have been working very, very hard to make sure that we run down anything we can with respect to this investigation, and our law enforcement officers will certainly be following that. Yes, sir.
In the indictment, you noted that pharmacological experts testified that ban would render the...
Okay, I don't think we'll go into all the questions and everything. Let's have a look at Edna. Where is Edna? What happened to Edna? So, if it was, it's odd, isn't it, really? Because she went for a hike, but she didn't return home. Where is Edna Quintana? But if it wasn't for Edna disappearing, Suzanne wouldn't have been found. And this is where it happened, or where she supposedly disappeared and where Suzanne ended up being found. Where is Edna? So she was last seen wearing unknown clothing. I mean, has something untoward happened to Edna? You know, is it a case of foul play, or has she really fallen down a ravine or somewhere? You know, people do disappear when they go on hikes. So she was last seen on May the 3rd, 2023 in the area of Saguache County. 55-year-old white female. She was in the area of Saguache County when last seen and would be on foot. She has medical issues. There's concern for her health and well-being at this time, and family has been unable to reach Edna, and she never returned home. White female, 55 years old, brown hair, brown eyes, 5'4", 145 pounds. Yeah, and then there's all these articles about it by the looks of it. Strange last movements. Let's have a look at that. What was strange about her last movements then? Yeah, so many missing people, of course. But her disappearance led to the the finding of another disappeared person. And that quite often happens, of course. Quite often when the police are doing river searches and things like that, they find the remains of other people that have drowned in the river without finding the actual person they're looking for. So, gosh, how many bloody bodies are out there? It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Let's see, what happened? So the day she vanished, Edna had been out hiking with a male companion with whom she'd been dating on and off for a few years. And the companion, who the US Sun is choosing not to name at this time because he has not yet been listed as a suspect, he has referenced the hiking trip in posts published on Facebook. And this male companion, now this seems a bit odd, doesn't it? He told police Edna was not able to keep up on the hike and returned back in the direction of the car. But when he returned to the car later that day, there was no sign of Edna and she was still in possession of her purse. Oh, he was still in possession of her purse and cell phone. Edna was not reported missing for another 3 days. It was a family member who would raise the alarm. So she was eventually reported missing to the local sheriff's office after she missed consecutive visits to Marilyn and her mother's home, something she'd typically do every day or at least every other day. And the red flag for our family is she was not a hiker. She wasn't a fisherman. And she wasn't even really an outdoorsy person. Hiking is not a typical activity that Edna would have done. So it sounds like they're a little bit suspicious of the person she supposedly went hiking with. So Edwards knows little of Edward's partner, but she says she has heard a number of rumours about him and their relationship since they vanished. Well, I think Edna deserves a video just for her, doesn't she? So we'll look into that at another time. I just want to say here and now, if I ever disappear and whoever it is who's suspected in my disappearance says, oh, we went for a hike. No, I don't go for hikes. So if somebody says, oh, well, we were out hiking. No. Mountain climbing. No. Anything that involves hills. No. Maybe walking by a river, walking by a canal, walking in the campo, flat. Yeah. But if anything ever happens to me, I disappear. I do, some sketchy person says, oh, yeah, we were on a hike. No, we weren't. Definitely not. So if anyone ever says that about me, whether it's family or friends or boyfriend or whatever, it's not true. I do not do hiking in mountains or in woods. Yes, woods, maybe. If they said, oh, yeah, we went to the woods, and fine. That is a possibility. But if it's mountains, hills, no. So just bear that in mind, because you might have to stick up for me one day when you're investigating into my disappearance, which hopefully will never happen. But you know what I'm saying. Definitely won't be that I've gone hiking anywhere in the mountains. Definitely not. Okay, so that's what's going on with Suzanne. And I am going to look into Edna's case, in a specific case for her at some